Opening up. Here we go. Woohoo! Ready to roll. All right. Says admit all. Here we go. Look at it. It's so good to see everyone. We love our Tuesday mornings, and I know everybody's just super excited to hear from Rebecca today. We're excited. Janice, hey, hi, Janice. Welcome back. I know you were on a travel trip. Awesome.
Yes, good to see you.
Yay, glad you can be here. This is exciting. Hi, Jim. Good to see you. Yay. Don't look like you're actually in the field today. Not today. All right.
No, I'm very fortunate. It's actually last week we had a couple TFRs while we had presidential movement, and luckily the weather was really bad, so the TFRs coincided with bad weather, and today it's just raining. So
oh, whoa, wait, it doesn't rain in Southern California. What's up with that, right?
that's why I'm staying off the highways.
Yeah. So, okay, I have to say I'm broadcasting from sunny Arizona. So it's nice here. It's a perfect day. So as we get the ball rolling, we want to give it a minute and just let some people go ahead and join. And so I do have one announcement that was just brought to my attention. I'm pretty excited about this. So I know you're familiar with the Vertical Space magazine, right? So it's up, it's out, it's on the Women in Drones website. There's awesome articles in there. And when you think about e-magazines and such like that, I have to say Vertical Space is one of the most beautiful magazines I know. It's laid out so well, and it's so pretty. And this one has great information in there, of course, highlighting several different occasions and people. And one of those actually happens to be from the disaster response training that we did. And so I'm going to put the link in there. I encourage you to check that out. We actually even have Sheila here, who was at the disaster response, and so she has some input on that. Say hello, Sheila, and tell us a little bit about that article, huh?
Oh, the article. Okay, I apologize now for the length, but we did a lot. So tried to add a lot in, and the one thing that I had to taper back on was all of our meals. But Orton and I tried to capture as much as we possibly could during that amazing learning experience, and just, yes, mind-blowing. So
Awesome.
Hopefully we captured it enough for everyone that attended. So, and for those who didn't, that's going to be, yeah. So happy
see,
reading.
it's all about a recap, right? So I encourage you to check out that recap. And yeah, when you pack it all into several days, it is really hard to make it a small article, right? And of course, we were in Texas. You can't do anything small in Texas, right? So, and then I have some people that I'm still trying to get entered into here. But I think we are all good, and I just can't wait to get started and introduce our spotlight speaker. But I think you already know her. She's actually been on our Coffee Connection before through DroneDeploy, but also just participating, being here, learning and sharing with us. And we just encourage everyone to do that because we love the networking aspect of it. So, Rebecca, I thank you for joining us. I am excited to hear about how the convention went for the DroneDeploy and what you have new. So with that, Rebecca, I am going to turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about DroneDeploy and how the conference went.
Great. Yeah, thank you for having me. And it's great to be here with you all. I I do try and join these as much as I can, because it's just a great reset for the day. And it's always nice to see all these other faces of folks interested in the same type of work as I am. And yeah, it just works really well. So props to Desi and the whole team for putting this together. I'm really grateful that it is here, and I've made some really nice connections through it myself. So hopefully you all will have more of those today. So yeah, with that, I do have some, I need to get that permission back to share, it looks like.
Okay. Are you saying I took it away somehow?
I guess so. We had it going.
It was looking good for a while, right? Guess what? You're back on.
Okay. There we go. All right. So my name's Rebecca, if you haven't met me before on here. And I wanted to share some news with you all about our company and what's changing there. And then also one of my favorite things to do in my job is I get to tell stories of really interesting ways that organizations are using drones and using them. Oh, look at Marie Louise, you're really out there in the field, right in the middle of a tree. That's awesome. I like this background. And how they're making an impact on their community and through this technology. And so I'm going to share a couple stories about just really exciting ways that I've seen this technology used in the nonprofit and education space. So does that sound good to everyone? Is there great? And if there's any questions along the way, feel free to ask them. We're going to start with Desi really wanted to hear about the conference. So going to start with that. We had our conference in Texas this year in Dallas, and it was our first time, as many conferences now, back in person, which was super exciting to be with other people and learning together. So one piece that was really new for us and was to have our conference be carbon neutral. So we offset the emissions for all the folks who flew out there and all, as well as the hotel stay, the emissions from that. And so that was a new piece of our conference, and it was a nice way to show that we as a company are trying to do the right thing as much as possible, and conferences in general can be a big hit on emissions. So a great place to do that. We had indoor and outdoor sessions. So we have the photo on the left is a bunch of folks gathering around our solution engineers. So they came with drones and with ground robots, and we're showing how those all work in the wild. We were in a park across the street from the venue. So it was hot, but it was manageable. And on the right is one of our bigger conference rooms. So that's some of the attendees there. And one thing that was really neat was that we had some great representation from this network, actually. So we had Tawny Smith, if you all are familiar with her. She is a remote pilot and drone teacher and flight trainer. So she came and talked about the work she's done working in education and as well as some nonprofits that she works with that are helping to uncover unmarked graves from African descendants in the United States, and as well as child and young girl education programs. So that was really neat. We also had Kimberly Penn, who is the chief strategist for Women in Drones, and she spoke a lot about her experience in 15 years of teaching at community college and at the university level, and what she sees there. And this session was moderated. The photos I have show Mike up there, but he was moderating once he sat down to just learn from them about what it means to bring people into this workforce and how we can be more inclusive employers, and how we can work to bring the entire industry forward through diversity and inclusion. The other speaker there is Jason Sansusi, who is a co-founder of Neurodiversity Works, which is a nonprofit that's helping to make more career pathways for neurodivergent students into the drone industry. So that was one I wanted to highlight. And then we did have a couple other really neat sessions with some, I'm not sure if you all know Kim Baldwin. She's also a member of Women in Drones, and she presented on the work she's doing in the Caribbean to manage sargassum, and working a lot with community engagement there. Really neat presentation. On the left was our keynote speaker, and he was presenting on research where they're going out with drones to find cenotes in the Yucatan Peninsula. And from there, they go into these cenotes as divers and are looking for ancient remains. They found a giant ground sloth. They found humans, the old humans. They found mines, and they're actually creating 3D representations of what all that looks like using reality capture. So creating those 3D models from in there. So that was also a really neat part of the conference. That's Sam Meacham, and he's from SINDAC is the organization. And lastly, we just another session there that Kim was on. And then on the right, she also helped us get in touch with a local school district. So we had some students come to the conference. They got to go out there and see actually above us right up here was a drone in the sky as we were taking the picture too. But it was neat to have students at the conference, and they're all in a robotics program and were interested in the industry and getting involved. So that was the news from the conference, and we can take a little pause there. I'm not sure if anybody from the audience here at the event.
I was going to ask, yeah, put that in if somebody was able to join. I know a few people, like Tawny was there, but
Yeah.
she's not actually on today. So is there any, we've got a few people in there. Awesome. How many days was the conference?
It was 2 days.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds like amazing panelists and guest speakers there.
Yeah, and Tawny, actually, she's here. She won, we did a scavenger hunt, and she won a 360 camera. So good for her. And now she's already finding some awesome ways to use it. So
oh, how exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool.
Nice. So we do have a couple of people that have said that they have been able to attend. So pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and so we're gonna so this was in Dallas this year. Next year, we're gonna be in a new location. So trying to do a little more traveling around and make sure that it's an easier trip for some people each time. Got a request for San Diego. I'll put it forward.
There you go. We like it. Yes, I back you on that, Jim. Bring it to San Diego. Awesome. Well, I'm glad it was a successful event.
Yeah. And honestly, thanks to this group, thanks to Sharon and Women in Drones for helping us get speakers for the event, and it was really awesome to work with everyone from this community. So definitely reach out if you're interested in being involved next year as well.
You'll be swamped with people now.
We'll see. So then we got back, and lo and behold, brand new news about the day after the conference ended, or the next week, we announced an acquisition of a company called Struction Site. So I just wanted to take you all through a little bit on that and kind of what the broader plan is from there. So our company was founded in 2013, and over time we've made a variety of acquisitions that have helped to grow the product in the direction that customers are interested in having that grow in. So we became a drone mapping platform, and then adding more data to that. We acquired or work with a flight services company to be able to do some flights for customers who need it. We acquired a ground robotics company that helps automate ground robots. And the next step with this acquisition was to merge ground and aerial data. So that kind of puts us right here. If we think about reality capture as a whole, there are many ways to capture data, and we're focusing on the middle two here, and looking to expand into those other areas as opportunities arise. But the four main methods of reality capture are obviously cameras, ground-based capture, aerial capture, and then LiDAR. So we're working to build out more of that complete reality capture platform. And that's a new term for me. I don't know if any of you have heard reality capture before, but it's definitely in some ways pretty obvious. You're capturing reality, but just to kind of put that in context, we're thinking about how to, and this has really been a neat journey for me to be part of over the couple of years I've been at this company, to unify this experience, make it easy and automated for data to come in, and then the last step is intelligence. And I'd say overall, it's been really amazing to work with nonprofits and organizations that don't have a lot of resources, but can still fully grasp this and quickly start using it to provide value. So just wanted to give some examples of what that might look like. Right here, I have a couple photos from actual disaster situation in Ecuador that my colleague captured. And so this was a mudslide that went right through town. And the unified view of this experience means that right here we have a panorama of data directly from captured from a drone. Then he's able to walk through that site and capture walk-through data that shows what things look like on the ground, and then be able to have that drone map to look at 3D models of the site as well. So that's kind of the unified view, being able to access photos and videos and panos and walkthroughs all in one place. I think this is an interesting video to talk about automated and what that might mean in a crisis management scenario. So automated means that you might not have to send somebody into a dangerous situation. This was an earthquake in Christchurch, Australia, New Zealand, and they used the robot dog and sent that into the facility instead of sending a person in. So in that situation, you're using that automated capture to keep people safer. There's also a lot of situations where organizations are interested in scheduling out when they're going to be, maybe it's every day, maybe it's every week, they just want to have data come to them. And that's where we start getting into the drone in a box solutions and these automated ground capture tools to enable that automated capture. And then intelligence. And this is really, I think, the next step that often I run into with organizations I work with, and I'm sure you all are too. We capture all this data, well, what are you going to do with it? And how can we make it more simple to just get the answers you need out of the data you've captured? So these couple photos are just to illustrate what that might look like in a disaster response situation, where maybe this was the campfire. We captured a huge map, but what if the actual data was able to tell you which houses are potentially damaged, which are what percent of damage they might have. So starting to get more of the analytics right out of the platform. And automation is you can, because you've automated data, you can start to do that at intelligence. And that's really where I think the future really is being able to get intelligence out of all the data we're collecting. So it's not just turning it into data products, but you'll actually have insights from that where you can start making decisions. So that's the big news from us. I'm going to take a pause there and see if we have any questions from folks in the audience. And then I'll jump into kind of the second half, if you will.
Awesome. Awesome. So the first question that I would actually like to put out to everyone is, who is actually doing mapping and utilizing DroneDeploy? One of the things that I love about DroneDeploy is the simplicity. And there you go, Jim Bonnerdale, daily. Yes, and just the acquisition and using it and putting that information out, is the simplicity that is behind it is just phenomenal. And so it is, when you're talking about a mapping thing, it is so easy to use, and that there's such a value in that. And then utilizing it for the 3D models and putting out those digital twins and such, it just puts out a phenomenal model. And now with doing those walkthroughs, I posted in there, walkthroughs, I love walkthroughs, right? Awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. And the Struction site is such a well-respected tool and company in the construction industry. And they've been able to make some really amazing ways of using that data, comparing it to something like a BIM model. So a computer model of what that site's going to look like, and comparing it to what you see in the real world. So I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah. We do have, Sheila had mentioned in there, does DroneDeploy create digital twins for all data captured? Is there an add-on or compared to the captures from one date to a next?
Yeah, so I think this question is asking about capturing data over time. So each set of data you capture is housed in a project, and then you can go out and refly that area or add new data to it. So the idea is to be able to compare over time, definitely. And you see that a lot on something like a construction site where it's changing as the building's being constructed. But we also see that in environmental situations where you have a forest that's growing throughout the season, or a new crop that's growing, or something like that. And then, do we partner with Boston Dynamics? Yes, we do. So they have, we mostly work with the Spot robot dog, and our software works with that to help in automating. I actually like, when you see it the first time, usually there's somebody walking behind it, right? And you see that, and it's a cool game, but there's a person and the robot that are both doing the same task. So in general, what our software would do is allow just the robot to walk on its own.
Awesome. Does DroneDeploy work with nonprofits to empower outreach amongst youth?
Yeah, we work with a lot of nonprofits, and actually a good amount of them I've been connected through through Sharon and this network. So thank you to you all for really just being a good convener of amazing work that's happening in this industry. So we do have an education program where we work with universities and schools, and then there's also a good amount of nonprofits that are doing a more small scale outreach and STEM education that we'll also partner with. And Tani mentioned, she already answered that, I guess, that we're supporting an organization she works with, and they've got some cool projects that they're looking to map there. Cool.
We've got a couple other comments in there. Jim has said that he's very excited about the growth of DroneDeploy. And then you mentioned the other one, and then supporting what Ingrid had said, and also allows for video with long time lapse style, is another one that Jim said. And so got a lot of great stuff going on into our chat, so I'm just trying to keep up with it. If you have any questions or anything, definitely this is the time to ask. And so looks like for right now, if you want to get back to the presentation, we can kind of segue back into it, and we'll just keep monitoring our chat.
Let's do it. So with this new growth of our company, it's a really exciting time to see how we can apply this new technology to social and environmental problems. And that's what I wanted to share a couple stories on today. And just to, if you're not familiar, DroneDeploy has a social impact program where we work with mission-driven organizations and just help enable them to use the software, whether that's nonprofits, crisis and disaster response, or education and academic research. We currently support over 130 nonprofits and 200 universities, and anyone can apply to join the program. A couple of our partners below. Some of the new ones we have are World Wildlife Fund. We're working with their Brazil branch, and We Robotics, which I'm sure you all have heard of as well. So we're supporting their network. And we keep track of how many flights this group is doing as a whole. So they've done over 20,000 flights and made over 13,000 maps on the platform. So reality capture as a whole is allowing for collecting and simplifying the collection of accurate data about real world conditions. And when we okay, there we go. And getting the best data available helps to make decisions that are based on facts and not theory. And that's a super common issue, especially in the nonprofit space and for organizations that don't have a lot of agency to show what's happening on the ground or their situation. So what is really interesting is that this new technology allows for broader audiences to share what's happening in their reality and inspire others to action. I also see that as an opportunity to build stronger programs. And lastly, we have a lot of use cases around responding to crisis. So I mentioned earlier the big themes of unified, automated, and intelligent. And I'm going to share a couple stories from nonprofits and education users that kind of highlight those main themes. So the first one is around historical preservation. So this is an open air museum in Germany. And they have 113 of these restored buildings and are visited by about 250,000 people each year. Each one of the buildings needs continued maintenance every year. And a few of them need general renovations. The renovations have to work through passed down historical knowledge, because this is a very unique style of building that has, specific people have this long history of knowing how to take care of them. So craftsmen and architects have really worked together to keep them up. And it's called Hessen Park is the area. Currently, both the climate crisis and rising energy are issues for this area because the temperature affects how these buildings are withstanding, and then energy prices are also making it more challenging just to keep them up and keep them going. So there's more of these buildings are currently at risk, and they need to have that renovation done. And they're looking at new ways. So not just taking the old style of doing things, but now using 3D scans, they're able to create these 3D renders of buildings and share that for figuring out how they're going to keep them up using innovative methods like 3D printing with clay and cool new ways of keeping up really old buildings. So I thought that was so cool. It's like restoring this 500-year-old building, but with brand new technology. And this video was one that our team made just to show a part of the site that's captured on the platform. So you can see all the buildings there in the 3D model. And then they're going in and using the measurements from this and the as well as looking at the actual inspection tools to see how well these buildings are holding up over time. And now that we have that indoor interior capture, you can also go inside a building, and you think of this with a lot of museums or any sites where you want to give somebody a virtual tour of a building or of an area that they're looking at, and also keep track of how things are changing inside buildings. So this is the walkthrough where you're holding a camera above your head, walking through those buildings and being able to capture the state of the interiors of these structures as well. So that's kind of the unified experience of being able to capture data from both the interior, exterior, all different types of data held in one place. So this is a story that I think is just so cool. These are researchers from the University of Pennsylvania, and they traveled to Lagash, which is an ancient site in southern Iraq. So the sites that they visited are called Lagash and Ur, and it's the first Mesopotamian cities that we really have. And they're there to explore the environmental contexts and understand what's going on in this super unique environment. And I think this picture kind of says it all. If you were out there in the middle of the desert trying to get an idea of what things look like, there's not much you can do from the ground, right? Like you could walk around, but it's really hard to even find your way. In this next photo, you can see the size of this site they're looking at in the middle of the desert. So, oftentimes they're in a time crunch where they're working with a small team on foot, trying to survey this huge area and find out if you're looking at this, like, where's the piece here that I actually want to go in and research further. So like within this giant city layout, where might be a spot that's worth doing more investigation in. So that's where they're using drone maps and creating a drone map of the entire area. They're then able to look for small indentations and changes that'll show that there's potential that this is an area that they need to go in and research. So these photos show them starting to pinpoint different sites based on a bunch of different variables that they found from looking at those elevation models. And then they go out and actually are looking more, pinpointing those spots that are really useful to look into. Another really neat project they did on this at this site was looking at what's called the ziggurat of Ur. So it's a very large structure that they are now able to have researchers from all over the world look at and decide how they're going to restore it with some help from the National Science Foundation and other big conservation groups. Okay, so now we're getting into automation. And here I just wanted to really talk about the search and rescue and disaster response stories, because I think those are the ones that are so simple to understand, especially from a context like this, and see how automation can be super valuable in the field. So you probably can't see it here, but there is a search and rescue team in this photo. And I've got a couple more to zoom in. There they are on the side of a cliff. And they're here. I mean, can you imagine being in this environment working to try and save someone? It's not a place where you have a huge visibility, and your footing is obviously not great either. So this is a scenario where having an automated tool that can go out and collect more data for you to help you obviously make better decisions on the ground can be really life-saving. So this is the group, they're actually in Iceland, where there's a lot of extreme conditions, and they're a search and rescue team who've said, automation is the key to better search and rescue efforts. Really, the human is the weakest link in that any sort of search and rescue project, where being able to use a drone and collecting those images allows your team to go and scrutinize them and find out where the issues are. But they were really Oli Steck, who we are working with there, was really forward thinking and seeing a future of search and rescue where automation and using drones and these tools are going to help get through the human as the weakest link, right? Like help us make better decisions. And I think that's what it's all about. So really a good story there. And then another neat example is disaster response. So this video is showing some walkthroughs from a large hurricane that hit a small isolated island in off the coast of Colombia. And the United Nations Development Program and others go out, and they only have one plane where they can send the first crew out on the ground. So it's mostly full of food and resources that are needed, but using reality capture tools. So this is an example where he's just walking around with a camera on his head. They also drove around and had that camera with them. Their team was able to start actually helping with the recovery effort. So starting that long-term planning of how to sustainably redevelop this area, because they had that the conditions on the ground, where usually that team who'd be going out and starting, disaster recovery, doing building assessments, wouldn't be there for another couple months. And you can imagine if this was your life, if this was your home, that's really making a difference in someone's actual state of being. And so they went out all over the island and were flying drones during that first visit. And from that, they do this housing building damage assessment, where they can see the percent of buildings that are damaged in each area. And also here we have those links to the actual photography on the ground that are going to help make those decisions long term. So I thought that was a really neat example of how automating data capture can really be life-changing for these situations. And intelligence. Okay, now we're getting into some fun topics. So I wanted to share a couple examples from actual environmental work. And there's one that we had that we've worked on really recently. And this is with Kasungu National Park, which is in Malawi. So in Malawi, they have had some really great efforts at helping to repopulate areas with elephants that have historically had poaching. So they had this great 250 elephants that they were going to be bringing back into this park. Can you imagine trying to transport an elephant? So they have these giant trucks, and they've tranquilized the elephants and lifted them up, and they're bringing them into this much greater park area where they're going to have a new home. And so that's really exciting. Elephants are very smart, and a lot of them are actually trying to get back to where they started. So they need to keep track of them in this new environment and be able to trace, are they, escaping in a certain direction? Are they, and how many are there wherever they are? So this is the team that was out there. It's the park rangers who are looking to keep track of all the elephants in the park. And so they're capturing this drone imagery where we're able to see elephants through the trees and see where the herds are. And the goal that they have is to create a intelligent tool where they can fly the drone and through that be able to say, this is how many elephants there are in this park. And this is a story I've heard over and over again from the conservation arena of wanting to be able to track and count the amount of individuals or of a species that's in a certain area. I'd say, you know, the most common one we see is probably cars, right? Like how many cars are in this parking lot is a more traditional use of an AI tool. And we do actually have a tool that does give you a count of how many cars there are. But these ones are just a little bit different, but have a totally different connotation, right? And we've done some hackathon projects where we were counting seals on a really rocky outcrop off of the coast of California, where researchers, they are able to get onto land, but it's kind of dangerous to be among the seals, and it's hard to, it's hard to walk around, and you're actually disturbing them. So if you can fly over and count how many there are, it's a much better tool. So this one, we also, there's a researcher right now who is on a boat traveling to Antarctica, where they're looking to do the same thing, mapping penguins on islands off, like, I guess, sub-Antarctic islands. So like islands pretty close to Antarctica, but not a part of that actual landmass. And so it's a endangered penguin colony, and they're using the drones to go out, fly over that area, and create a map of the environment. And again, the goal is to be able to count how many individuals there are and how many nests there are. So I think this is a really neat way that we can apply automation to social and environmental issues. Another example that follows a kind of similar track is around forest work. So this is One Tree Planted. They're a nonprofit that does a ton of tree planting. It's a really simple model. It's $1 per tree, and they're planting all over the world with many different local partners. And so then the next question is, how are you going to keep track of all of these forests you're growing, and be able to see if how much growth there is? And so we did a project with them through our hackathon as well, where we were taking their data. This was from it was data they had captured at a banana tree plantation, and looking at growth. So this is a dirty model that shows how much those trees have grown over time, but gives you an idea of it. And on the right here, we are looking at that area. So the radius of a tree often tells you how is a very important biometric tool to show how much volume there is of tree. And from that, you can start to get ideas of how much growth there has been. And so that's what we are looking at. So here we can see the trees growing through this is what I meant by, you can look at data from different dates in the same project, just a GIF of that. And then over here, we can see starting to chart out how much those trees have grown. So a big topic right now in the environmental field is carbon, as I'm sure you've heard, carbon markets, and being able to track carbon. And that really means you need to know how much a tree is growing. If your carbon is the mass of tree, and you need to know also the species and all these other tools to be able to estimate how much these trees are sequestering out of the environment. But from that, you have to start with this idea of how much have they grown. And that's kind of where we're getting at with these tools, is being able to start to measure volumes, gets more of those biometric tools out of just drone imagery. And that, I think, is what's super exciting about all of these tools. We're obviously having a huge impact in many commercial industries, and that is still a big focus of the company. And I'm sure you've seen, we work a lot with construction and with agriculture, but also there's a huge imperative to take this amazing cutting edge technology and apply it to all the other big challenges that we have in this world. And I think that's I think that's what's so exciting about being in the drone industry as a whole, is like, we are using this brand new tech. We're in many ways at that cutting edge, and just the work that we all do in, both in education and STEM outreach, but also in this nonprofit arena and humanitarian work is I think that's going to be a really lasting story for our industry to tell. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have, and would love to talk about other ideas this made you think of, and yes, whatever stories are on your minds as well.
Wow, I think we're just floored, and just you've expanded our vision of the tool, but just for the humanitarian side and the potential that's there and how it's actually being used is phenomenal. And just thank you so much for sharing that and expanding our vision of what's happening out there. I know there are a lot of comments in there about this is amazing. Carolyn had a question about, do you know the size of the land they need to cover? And I think that, Carolyn, you can unmic if you want. I think it had to do with when you were examining the one location where they were pinpointing the terrain.
The elephants.
It might have been. So Carolyn, can you kind of share your question a little bit?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Ah! Yeah, so how much land are you covering with those elephants? Like, do they have trackers so you know where to look for them? Or it's like you've got this big, huge park who I don't know how many acres they have, and it's like you put a drone up there. So how do they do it?
Good question. Yeah. So actually, I mean, I'll tell you a story. So our company was founded, our three founders are from South Africa. And one of the main reasons they were interested in starting the company was one of our founders was on a trip to a park in South Africa, just with work, and his the folks he was with happened to be a park ranger there, who was saying that it's really a challenge to manage the area with the poaching. And I'd say that in general, there's a lot of rangers who are managing a park, and then there's this kind of technology battle, if you will, where they're gaining technology and new tools, and at the same time, so are poachers and in that community as well. So in this park, it is a large park. It's actually almost 900 square miles, and there is an entire team of rangers who are out there. So they're adding drones and drone mapping as a new tool to be able to help manage the area, but they have a big variety of different other tools that they have in their toolbox as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And I saw several other questions that were coming in, and I know we're getting up near the top of the hour. I think you've just managed to floor us all, you know, well, amazing information. And so let me see, I tried to grab a couple in here. You already addressed the one about the tracker. Do you work with EPA retracking carbon emissions, or how does the conversation get started?
Yeah, so Nita, I think you're wondering about how I talked about a couple things. One was about the conference, and then the other was about the other one was about actually carbon tools for the carbon monitoring sector. So if you are interested in looking at emissions for a conference or an event, there is EPA guidance for that. And it's pretty doable to follow. So that's how we completed our calculations there. And then for the carbon market is a new field, I'd say, as a whole, that involves a lot of these forestry projects, for example, One Tree Planted and others have in general been planting trees for, there hasn't been that connection to actually looking at carbon, but it's just as a nonprofit. We know trees are good, and it's something that is a great way to to give back, and then also it has a lot of great benefits for communities who are involved as well. So when we're looking at the carbon market, there's a lot of different standards in place for that. There's a couple different bodies in the US that do manage those standards. And there's requirements for to basically look at additionality. So was this tree going to be planted already? And if it was planted, how much carbon will it sequester over what time frame, to decide basically how much that credit is worth. So that is currently not happening through the EPA might have its own guidance on it, but it is other like markets that are created around that.
Thank you. You would think, like with the net zero carbon corporate goals that a lot of the big companies have, there could be some sort of, initiative to help them meet their goals using these tools.
Yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of those companies and people who are buying do like buy from projects that are, but the actual using drones as a tool is a pretty new. And then actually the way that we're starting to monitor those projects is also super developing. So that's where, yeah, there's a lot of potential to use these remote sensing, whether it's from satellites or drones, to help with that. But yeah, you would think.
Awesome. Awesome. So jumping back over to our chat, looks like Dennis is asking if there is a educational user for DroneDeploy. He has class that's going to be starting up. I also saw a couple other questions popping up about, maybe on STEM programs and stuff like that. How would somebody go forward for a program with DroneDeploy?
Yeah, so as a nonprofit, we have a website called DroneDeploy.org. And if you know an organization that might be interested, or if you yourself are associated with an organization, you can apply there. Also, feel free to email me, reach out to me on LinkedIn, whatever. I'm very available for any sort of conversations. And then if it's for education program, we do have just an email alias called education@dronedeploy.com, where you can put in your request there. So yeah, many ways to get in touch, and here to facilitate all the conversations.
Awesome. Can you put your information into our chat? That way, if
Yeah.
someone wanted to actually save the chat, they would be able to do that. There you go. Boy, that was quick.
I was already on my way there.
Okay, awesome. And then Delisa, she's like in the environmental aspects of the conversation that we've been having. And so really glad that you had an opportunity to share about that as well.
And I'd say, like, one thing that's been neat in this role, and just through conversations I have, is that there's some way that everyone can work with a nonprofit or find a way to use their skills for good. And each of those projects are really things that stick with you, and they're the stories that come back to me, and where people love talking about, hey, like, I mean, I had a coworker or a customer of ours was in the construction industry and went out with researchers to Chichen Itza in Mexico and was able to map that pyramid structure, and just using the skills they had from work and applying that to this whole different project. So it's the stuff that'll really keep you going. And I'm sure a lot of you already are involved, but if you're looking for new ways, new organizations to get involved with, I'm also happy to help connect you. I know Sharon has a lot of connections, but I'm happy to as well. Even just presenting at your school, middle school, high school, some school you've been to before, have a connection your kids go to, that's always really fun as well.
Yes, and that's STEM, and that's where it starts, inspiring. When you have that passion inside you and you have something to share and give, that is just a phenomenal way just to build on our future. And so in so many different ways, DroneDeploy is doing that, and that's just amazing. And so we're just really thankful that you were here to share, and it's a bigger picture than we even imagined. And so I know we have a lot of thank yous that have popped up into our chat there. We truly thank you for coming and joining us and sharing with us today. And so
and last thing, it's election day, so let's
Yeah,
also
that
vote.
too. Woohoo! Yeah, don't forget. Yes.
Don't forget, I did it yesterday.
Yeah, awesome. So, if somebody wanted to embark in using DroneDeploy, if they had not done so in the past, but they know this is a direction that they want to go, how do you encourage them to get started?
So depending on we do, I guess as a company, we have a free trial that anybody can use for 14 days. So I would plan that around a project that you want to capture some data on, and see how it goes for you. And then, yeah, feel free to reach out through dronedeploy.org if there's other nonprofit type projects as well. We do have a variety of different like models where you can get the license for a month or for a whole year. So you have flexibility there. And then we do have a free flight planning app. So if you just need to capture and get some flight plans automated, that's available to anyone.
Awesome. Awesome. So that's a great place to start. And look, she's got that in there too. So we are all set. Well, we just truly thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Yeah.
We've got a way to reach out, and yes, the comments still keep coming. Love it. Very inspiring. And we just so thankful that you came and shared and showed us the bigger picture and the value. That's
Yeah, and looking forward to hearing from all of you on our next coffee chats about what you're all up to.
awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll say goodbye until next Tuesday. Super excited for next Tuesday and moving forward. There's Jim. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you for
Bye.
sharing.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks very much. Fly safe, everybody.
Thank you. Fly safe.
Yes.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rebecca.
yeah.
Be safe.
Love it. See, everybody loved it. It was a great presentation. Yes. And Johnny, he's going to record it or take the recording and make it into a video, and it'll be up on the library.
Great.
Rock star.
Thanks,
Thank you, Johnny. Yes.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yep. Awesome. So Rebecca, thank you. And
Yeah.
glad that this worked out. And so super glad. So what actual time zone are you in?
I'm currently in Colorado.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, is this early? I'm sending it late. I don't know. So
No, we're good.
glad it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
All
Thanks.
right.
This is awesome, Rebecca. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Thanks for putting this together. Yeah, I talk about it with folks at my company, and it's just so fun. And I've randomly, like, multiple that I've joined have had other people talking about our software, which is also kind of funny.
I know. Exactly. I know that one time we used DroneDeploy. It was like full on commercial for DroneDeploy.
I know. It's like, I don't need to do this.
I know. But you shared today such inspirational material that just really tugs on the hearts of the people that join here. And
Yeah.
so it was really, really good for you sharing today. And we just really thank you for that. That kind of wraps it up.